Right. Back here at the weekly podcast, where let's just say it's been a slow work week for people doing the weed news. I mean, there's people out there talking here and there. I made a couple clips maybe about the the deputy attorney general talking about the same thing Jeff Sessions would have been talking about if he was available to talk about it. We've seen more lawsuits being raised on opioid manufacturers and distributors. We've seen this, we've seen that. MILegalize, Michigan petition to legalize marijuana to get it on the ballot in 2018, kicked off earlier this month. And if you haven't already watched the video I made about the ballot language, or about the rollout of the language video, I'll tell you basically how I feel about it and what's in it, and that's about it. And then in the comment section, I asked, to see if anybody out there, I don't care if you live in Michigan or not, if you've read it or you've seen my video about it, talking about the higher points and the lower points of it, you make a comment if you could, because I plan on trying to interview somebody from MILegalize at the Cannabis Cup this weekend. So basically, yeah, I don't know, throw me a bone, tell me what you think. So far, I got the usual stuff going on in there. People saying, well, I'm not gonna support that because, that's just a giveaway to the big money interests or whatever, and we want to just stop arresting people for marijuana. Sorry, Nate. Am I rolling? Yes, I am. And we're in it. The other complaint that I might have heard about MILegalize is that I don't know. The complaint I made was about the transporters. But as you've seen, from California to everywhere in between to here, I guess, that's a new thing with the marijuana industry. They want armored carriers transporting marijuana around town. Only commodity I can think of that they want that for. Don't understand it. Don't see the reasoning behind it. Can kind of see the corruption behind it, but not really. I mean, it ain't like there's some kind of a truckers union or some shit, or armored car union out there that is holding someone's feet to the fire. Now, when you think about security, you think police. Is this some kind of giveaway to the police? Well, in a little bit of a way it is, because if you get caught transporting marijuana and you're not one of these secure transporters, you can be in trouble. Because in the proposal, there's limits on how much you can carry. So, and again, like anything else, we don't get to have nice things. It looks like the limits are enforced by the police, and these are laws that you could break, and you could go to jail. But I go over all this. I'm not going to go back over it. And you can read it yourself. MILegalize isn't trying to keep it secret. The language is out there on their website at MILegalize.com. So if you're interested in that, there's not very much time to do it. So I'm going to check back on that video on like Wednesday and see what the hell, what I want to basically run with on questions for MILegalize. Now, what questions do I already have for MILegalize? I don't really have any, to be honest. It is everything that I expected it to be. They're running the campaign a hell of a lot better than they did before. Their social media way more active. They have a lot of fresh young people that are in the ranks. They were probably in the ranks before, but now they have a more important role as the campaign moves forward. I've already got dozens of signatures without even trying, so it's not that hard to get signatures for legalizing marijuana in Michigan, believe me. Now, the one question that I don't need another person asking is the whole abrogate prohibition versus legalizing marijuana. Let me explain that one more time, all right? There's 3 camps for legalizing marijuana. Not really legalizing, but the legal status of marijuana. There's 3 desirable camps. One is the camp we're in right now, which is the Republican camp, which is prohibition. You're lucky if they get medical marijuana, and if you do, it's really restricted, and you can't grow your own, you can't smoke the weed, that's a Republican model. Through and through, everything about it. The desire for marijuana to go to Schedule II, that's a Republican idea. Don't get it twisted. That's not a good idea. That's a bad idea. We don't need to give marijuana to the FDA. They don't deserve it. So there's that. That's the Republican plan. Just arrest people as much as you can for marijuana. And then you have the Democratic plan, which is, hey, let's legalize marijuana. Yay. Which means you tax it, you regulate it. When you say you tax something, it's almost like you're saying the government becomes the mafia and they send out their enforcers to make sure you're paying your taxes. Well, they also send out the regulators to make sure you're following the regulations, too. They don't want anybody getting over on them. So there's that way to go. And it still puts you in jail for marijuana. Still creates crimes out of marijuana crimes. Still puts teenagers at risk of getting a permanent record. And by the way, a lot of people are proposing this 21 and up bullshit. And I've even heard people floating, we can even go higher than that. We can even take it to 25 because, marijuana causes developmental problems in the brain, blah, blah, blah. And that's such bullshit. Can we just stop talking like little children that don't really know what the fuck we're talking about? The people that push that narrative that marijuana is bad for people that are young to smoke it, they really think it is, truly. Because it is bad in their eyes, because what they want to do to these young people is completely brainwash them. Brainwash them into religion, brainwash them into politics and whatever school crap they want them to do. Don't you understand, marijuana is more, it's not, first of all, it's cannabis. Marijuana is some scary word from the early 1900s that they used to scare people about Mexicans. I don't even know if that was really an acceptable term for cannabis by the Mexican people. Anyhow, that's the Democratic camp. Legalize it, but it's still against the law to do too much of it, to have too much of it, to grow too much of it. In some cases, in Democratic situations, they don't even want to let you grow it when it comes to recreational marijuana. And then you have the constitutional, I'll call it, method, which is get prohibition the fuck out of here. Now, this is called abrogating prohibition, and it's something that's been done before. It's been done with alcohol. Alcohol's prohibition was lifted with a constitutional amendment, which abrogated it. And what they had to do is basically go in there point by point, because the prohibition of alcohol was also a constitutional amendment. So they had to go in there and point by point take apart the constitutional amendment piece by piece, and basically say what was and wasn't allowed, and put in some future protections and whatnot. And that's what we're talking about with abrogating prohibition of marijuana. You go in and you find out wherever there is in federal law and federal jurisprudence and everywhere else, and you find how marijuana is prohibited, and then you take that shit out. It's real easy to write. You could write it up in one paragraph, and there actually was a group that was running the abrogate prohibition of marijuana in Michigan called Abrogate Michigan in 2016, and they were not successful at getting enough signatures to get it on the ballot, unfortunately. I've said many places, many message boards, and even on video many times how I feel about the Abrogate Michigan campaign. I feel like they could have easily gotten enough signatures. I feel like they did not take their own campaign that seriously. I feel like they were very divisive. I believe, now I call this a constitutional approach to getting rid of marijuana laws, because in my heart, I just want these stupid marijuana laws to go away. I don't want people going to jail for a plant. That's pretty simple stuff. But yet there's these things called taxes, and marijuana is obviously a commodity, no matter how you dice it and slice it. So there's a lot of things wrong with just abrogating prohibition. Because before prohibition of marijuana, it was kind of a controlled substance. I mean, sure, it wasn't really controlled. Anybody could have grown it in their backyard. But to be honest, there wasn't very many people that even knew what marijuana was. In fact, nobody knew what marijuana was until prohibition. I mean, not too many people. Not too many white people anyway. Let's be frank about it. Because tucked away in suburbia white America, or even the whites that lived in the city, they were on a different socioeconomic level, and marijuana wasn't a thing. What they were familiar with, and what was socially acceptable at the time, was cannabis. Cannabis extract. Everybody had a bottle of cannabis extract in their house, in their medicine cabinet. Let's see, I got some of that here somewhere. Yeah. Here's a bottle here. This is actually a tincture spray bottle. This is a cobalt blue bottle, so you can't really see it, but it's actually pure extract and alcohol. So it's like 95% alcohol or less or whatever, slightly less. And, marijuana that's been extracted from the pure herb. So that's kind of, I'm sure that Park Davis went through a couple more processes to get theirs to look the way it did, probably distillation processes and whatnot. But basically, what we're talking about here is acceptability. And when Prohibition happened, marijuana became a thing that people, was afraid of. And with good reason, they made a lot of film, and I would call it film noir, and maybe a whole lot of newspaper articles from the Hearst newspaper organization, which was basically the owner, William Hearst, was a propagandist that was anti-marijuana. I am so sidetracked, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to disappoint you right off the bat. There's really no news. I already been, leading into that, but here we are. Just some shit that I don't even want to talk about, really. You know what I mean? It's, after talking about the different schools of thought in MILegalize, that was the only other thing about that, was that, the abrogate prohibition people, they're not too friendly with other campaigns. I'm friendly with them. I'm like, hell yeah, I'd rather see your shit pass every day of the week, but I'm just a realist as well. And even if both of them were on the ballot, pretty sure yours wouldn't get voted in. Just because it's a radical idea to a lot of people, And what it basically says, well, shit, let's see if we can't pull it up. Let's see. So let's just look right at the petition itself, because I'm pretty sure it's really straightforward. Yep, there it is. This will just add a line to the Constitution, and it will say in Section 21, Section 28, Paragraph 1, the agricultural, personal, recreational, medical, commercial, and industrial use of cannabis in any form by any person shall be a lawful activity. Cannabis use by any person who is the ward of an adult enrolled in a K through 12 school, a minor, shall be lawful activity requiring only parental or legal guardian authorization. All prohibitions on the use of cannabis in any form by any person is hereby null and void and henceforth abrogated. Use of cannabis shall include the growing, manufacture, delivery, purchase, consumption, transport of any seed, flower, leaf, mixture, derivative, extract, product, and or preparation of the cannabis for personal... Whoa. What just happened here? Oh, shoot. I just pushed the wrong button. All right, here we go. I didn't know there was a show button there. That's insane. I want to read that one again because that's a fun one. And by the way, so far, this is scaring the fuck out of probably 70% of the voters in Michigan. That's the sad news, is in Michigan, you don't have that many libertarians that come out in mass. You know, it's like, I think there's more Green Party people that come out, to be honest. But actually, if you look at the last election, the Green Party did get way more votes than the Green Party. If you're just talking about Gary Johnson. If you're talking about Green Party candidates versus Libertarian candidates, I think it's probably a pretty even split. But whatever, none of that matters because those numbers are way hella low. These people barely exist. And like I said, where MILegalize is probably going to get on the ballot and it's probably going to pass in 2018, this shit would not pass. To get 250,000 signatures in 6 months would be a stretch, guys. I really don't think you can do it. But anyway, try if you want. I will support you. I'll even circulate your petition, dude. I don't even have any problem with that. Especially because it's so easy. This is quick and to the point. There's nothing more to it. Wait, here's the full text. Yeah, you can tell I'm not I'd rather not do my homework. I'd rather just do this. Yeah, see, there you go. Full text. That's it, guys. That's what a constitutional amendment to get rid of prohibition looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and continue reading it from here. But let me go back and read A again, because this is kind of like, all these democratic methods. You end up with like Colorado, where they got like a 4,000-ish page, encyclopedia of rules and regulations, and it's the growing, manufacture, delivery, purchase, consumption, and transport of any seed, flower, leaf, mixture, derivative, extract, product, or preparation of the cannabis for personal, recreational, medical, commercial, or industrial purposes. This is all included in the use of cannabis. No tax, no fines, no regulation to diminish use shall be levied or allowed for use of cannabis. Now, the problem I have with that is that I don't know if that's the part where, believe it or not, this looks like it's protecting the general business of cannabis from being taken over by like 2 or 3 companies that basically monopolize everybody else out of the business. I don't think that'll ever happen with cannabis because it's such a diverse plant. You can do so much with it, breeding wise. There's no perfect cannabis combination. Like, maybe there is for one person might be like, oh, I can, this particular, like, I don't know, Larry OG is the only thing I could smoke. Everything else makes me go batshit crazy. I don't know, man. It's just not like that. It's just like you just want. It's like eating fruits and vegetables. Like you'll eat certain fruits and vegetables, and then you'll get bored of them, and you'll switch to something else or whatever. It's like anything else. Variety is the spice of life, and there's no way that somebody's just going to come along and stamp out packs of fucking joints, and that's going to be it. That'll never fucking happen. But although this looks like some kind of a thing where it protects, I don't know what from what. No, this is big business would love to have this because that's how big business. That's how monopolies crush little businesses. When there's no taxes, fines, or regulations to diminish use, then they'll be able to crush everybody else. Taxes aren't there to punish big businesses, and regulations aren't there to necessarily kneecap big businesses. But those things are definitely helpful to make sure that everybody can share in the fortune, And quite frankly, I'm a grassroots person that's been trying to legalize marijuana my whole life. So I don't know, man. Maybe there is some kind of a way that everybody should be able to get involved, like a cottage industry, rather than just have big companies come in and crush the competition and stamp out this, mundane ass product that ends up being like cigarettes. Like, you might argue, oh, but look, cigarettes have like many brands and many flavors and this and that. And it's like, well, cannabis is never going to look anything like that. I guarantee it. Severability, if any section, subsection, or part of this amendment is for any reason held to be invalid or unconstitutional, the remaining sections, subsections, or parts of those shall not be affected, but will remain in full force and effect. Severability. That means you can't cut any of this thing out of any of it, and that's just all there is to that. But anyway, long story short, they didn't even announce a number as to how many ballot signatures that they got. And guess what? They're no longer even available. So that's your different camps on legalizing marijuana and what they have to offer, I guess you would call it, as far as protections. All I got to say to those libertarians with the abrogate prohibitions, we're just not there yet, dude. There's still a bunch of old, crusty-ass motherfuckers like Jeff Sessions everywhere, even in Michigan. It's full of them. And there's still these big moneyed-up Republicans and Democrats that take the money from Big Pharma and take the money from the chemical companies and all these other people that are involved in pills, health insurance companies and shit. They ain't there for us. They're not there to help us. And they know that cannabis is there to help us. Cannabis is there to help us in our economy. It's there to help us medicinally. And it's just good. It's just good shit, man. There's just absolutely nothing but goodness coming out of cannabis. All right, I've been dicking around long enough. Let's get back into this stupid story. Arkansas, they're going to go to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board to govern their medical marijuana program. That doesn't make any fucking sense at all, guys. If you want to look at a program that's successful, look at Michigan's, where they just leave it all up to the caregivers and now dispensaries. And the dispensaries of the days of old. We have not had any problems. Everything's been going great. So they better get their shit together, because guess what? They have to start accepting applications on June 30th. Quote, we have a lot of work to get done. We have some time to get it ramped up in preparation for these facilities to come online. I don't foresee them being operational before the first of the year, so we have an opportunity to get staff in place and make sure that our procedures are workable before the marijuana is actually in the state. Before marijuana is actually in the state. We have another slow rollout, people. The group of lawmakers still have a lot of questions surrounding medical marijuana, including the issues ABC and the Medical Marijuana Commission aren't even supposed to address. And here we go with the same old right-wing bullshit. Ready? Some questions the lawmakers themselves would have to tackle in the next legislative session. One lawmaker brought up there being no prohibition against contractors or construction workers holding medical marijuana cards. Huh? What's that? What is he talking about? He wants to prohibit contractors or construction workers, or both of them. He wants to make them so that they can't get a medical marijuana card. They're the ones that are probably in the most fucking pain, I would think. What the hell? Another lawmaker brought up the question of how law enforcement will be able to tell if someone on medical marijuana is too impaired to drive a vehicle. Well, hey, man, do you already fucking tell if people are too high to drive a vehicle that are eating pills? I mean, other than the fucker that's passed out at the stop sign? Come on, guys. This is bullshit. Same old bullshit. We've seen it time and time again. Every fucking time there's a rollout, every time there's some kind of new medical marijuana thing or legalizing recreational, right around the corner, the lawmakers are freaking out and they're trying to figure out a way that they could delay it, and they got to scare you. They got to scare you. They ain't scaring shit. They're scaring the voters away from voting for them next time is what the fuck they're doing. Because guess what? Even in Arkansas, is that where we're at again? I already forgot. Yeah, even in Arkansas, marijuana, medical marijuana, I think last time I looked in Arkansas, it won with over 70% of the vote in 2016, but it also polls in the 80s or 90s. So give me a break. No specific standards to judge how much THC in a person's system equals impairment, because it's different for everyone, dummy. There are a lot of concerns over edible products amongst the lawmakers. One lawmaker asked Steele how many children would have to die before the state outlawed edibles. I'm sorry I laughed about that, because first of all, you fucking real stupid person. Nobody, and I repeat, fucking nobody has ever died from eating any kind of marijuana, any amount of marijuana. And you're asking how many children are going to die from it? Ask Colorado, fucker. Why don't they tell me who this one lawmaker is? Because I want to fucking go to his Twitter page and catch him up on this. I'll find out. All right, you got to be kidding me. Castile answered that she hoped none, and that they had done their due diligence to make sure the products are not attractive or accessible to children. Yeah, there's regulations in place, you dipshit. You're not outlawing edibles, all right? Outlawing edibles is like, you didn't outlaw fucking candy-flavored vodka, did you? Why are you trying to outlaw edible marijuana? It's medicine. Because you think some kids are going to die from them? This is just the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. It's probably grandstanding, but I wasn't there, so I can't guarantee that. But it sounds like grandstanding. I hope it, for your sake, it's grandstanding. Because if not, you just look like the dumbest, stupid person that ever fucking put a stupid hat on and sat in the stupid fuck chair. Please, take your head out of your fucking stupid ass and quit with this overabundance of caution rolling marijuana out. It's just making you guys look so stupid. You don't know how dumb you are compared to like what the actual average person in today's America is capable of knowing. First of all, even the old people now are on the fucking computer. So everybody has Google at their fingertips. There's nowhere where you can get information like you're talking about. People dying, children dying from edibles. There's not a single case of it ever that happened, so fuck off right away. You know, and you know how I know that? Because if there was a kid that died, a child that died from eating edibles, we would definitely be having a different conversation every day about marijuana. But that never has happened. It's not something that will happen tomorrow. So shut up and go fucking learn something. I don't know who that fucking politician was, but he's probably really old and stupid and goes to church every Sunday. All right. Fuck Arkansas, man. Don't forget, guys, they're only letting people that are highly connected and heavily moneyed. That's the only people that are going to be fucking growing weed in Arkansas. And they're probably going to be the same people that are going to be running the fucking dispensaries. So get ready, Arkansas, to have the shittiest, I don't know what you want to call it, crony capitalist style, Republican right-wing authoritarian marijuana fucking program that I've heard of, really. Besides what Florida had and is probably going to still have after they hash that shit out. But when it comes to medical marijuana, there's two ways to go, guys. There's the way that we just seen these guys trying to go, and then there's like Michigan and Colorado and Oregon and California, where it works, where it actually helps people. And the more access you have, the better. The more people involved in the program, the better. Not tighten it up and have 10 corporations grow all the fucking weed and there's only like one dispensary for every 15,000 patients or some shit. That's clearly people trying to attempt massive money grabs on the backs of sick people. And it's fucking disgusting. Meanwhile, their product is, I don't know, I haven't been there, haven't done that, but I'm guessing their fucking products are going to be shit. Because the people running it don't have any motivation to do it right. They just have motivation to make sure the product is there because there's literally going to be overwhelmed with demand. Unless it's non-smokable marijuana, which I think in Arkansas that's the case. So if you got a case like that, you're going to be losing money. I think that's what it said in there, is that they're going to be losing money for a minute. But not as bad as Louisiana. We'll get to that later. I mean, I wasn't even going to do this show. Because it's so depressing on how all these fucking stories are with the restrictions and the just overabundance of caution. That's the theme of today's show. I'm starting to have themes for the shows because it seems like that's what the fuck's going on, you know? Like, each week there's just some kind of a thing going on where everybody's doing it. This time, it's everybody's putting on the rubber baby buggy bumpers and extra layer of baby gloves and trying to go as, you know, while you're doing all these like nanny state measures to make sure the marijuana rollout is as safe as you think you can make it for the kids fucking are going to jail over this shit. Let's be real. All you're doing is perpetuating a fucking failed drug war on marijuana specifically. One you know you goddamn well lost. You fucking lost that one, government. How the fuck do you think you can keep beating this dead horse like Kevin Sabat shit? Oh, yeah, this is bad. Bad, 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 bad. Every time you say that marijuana is bad, someone goes to fucking prison. Every 40 seconds, someone gets fucking arrested for marijuana. It's one of the number one ways that you could go to federal prison these days. Meanwhile, we have people dropping dead every day from fucking opioids, which are synthetic opiates made by government FDA approved fucking laboratories and run by just a handful of families known as Big Pharma. Just a handful of families, that is. Big Pharma doesn't employ like billions of people. They're not like, they're not known as like the generous employer and the person, the people that have all these pills are made automatically in labs. There's no real people involved in any of the processes. Just a few families own it all. Rich as fuck families, man. All of them are on the Forbes top 500 list. Some of them are on the top 100. A lot of them. Let's face it, man. Drug dealers like El Chapo was on that list. I mean, he makes that list almost every year. And that's the kind of people that are on that list. The only way you make that fucking list is if you're at minimum killing people on a daily basis with your product. So, all right, let's go to Massachusetts, where once again we have this shit ball, this crazy stuff going on. So, earlier in the week, I believe the House, a legislative panel, just a little panel, approved a bill strictly limiting the cultivation, sale, use of marijuana. The legislation was expected to come up for consideration Thursday in the House of Representatives, but legislative leaders decided to postpone a vote until next week. The Senate must also approve the measure. Pot advocates blasted the proposal. What in the fuck do they still use the word pot for? They say it guts key provisions of the law legalizing marijuana that voters approved in November. I wish I knew what they were talking about, but I think this is a situation where they were really going to lower the amount of plants you can grow from what it was on the ballot, which was 12, to 6. And it was maybe even less than 6. I can't remember, but I read it before on here, and I was just like, what? You can't... If the voters read something like you're allowed to have 10 ounces of weed at home, and all of a sudden that passes, hey, politicians, guess the fuck what? That's going to be the law, all right? That's what voter initiatives mean. That means if enough people vote for it, it's the fucking law. And enough people did, so shut up, man. More than 54% of Massachusetts voters approved the law, which allows 21-year-olds to possess up to an ounce of marijuana in public and 10 ounces at home, and to grow up to a dozen plants on their property. It also allows retail growing facilities which are expected to open next year. Currently, pot sales would be subject to a 3.75% excise tax and a 2% local tax, in addition to the state's 6.25% sales tax. Combined 12% levy, according to lawmakers, just isn't enough to cover the cost of regulating the industry. And we've also heard this before, time and time again. Countless places that have legalized marijuana or are about to, or it's proposed and they want to talk about something, they keep talking about how it's going to cost more to fucking legalize marijuana than if it was totally illegal. I don't know, guys. Is this like some kind of Orwellian doublespeak shit or what? Like I don't really follow that. I can't even grasp it with my brain. So I'm just gonna fucking forget I even said it or that they ever said it or I don't even know what it was. So under the proposed changes, pot sales could be levied a tax up to 28% with a 16.75% sales tax and 5% local tax in addition to the sales tax, which was, remember, 6.75 or 6.25 up here. Borgensini said the actual rate could be as high as 47% because commercial growers who supply the retail market would also be taxed. What? That's just crazy, dude. I mean, come on, man. What? Do I even got to read this one? The tax is going to be so high that it's going to be encouraging people to go to the black market to continue manufacturing. And that's not the right way to create a legal marijuana market. That's not the right way to create any market. You know, you always hear about these Republicans talking shit about taxes being too high. Oh, we got to take taxes down. They're trying to get tax breaks for the corporations. Democrats aren't shy about wanting to raise taxes, and I think this is a lot of Democrats behind a lot of this shit because that's who I seen saying and doing a lot of shit so far. Like it was a Democrat from Manchester or some shit like that was trying to lower the plant count and lower the amount of weed you could have at your house and shit. So come on, guys. And I've always said these Democrats are not your friends, but I always forget another little piece to that is that Democrats also want to pick your fucking pocket, big time. They need money. They're like church. They just need more money all the time for no fucking particular reason. They just need to just keep giving them money. Yeah. And when the black market starts rearing its ugly head again, states that have legalized marijuana, for whatever reason, have found that it's a better idea to lower the taxes. For some reason, more people want to get in. And it's not even about the regulations. It's more about just the taxes. Because, yeah, the regulations makes you have to spend more money, too, just to be compliant with the regulations. That's not cheap. And, I mean, if you look at what's going on, and I've said this before as well, I don't know if I'm going to keep saying that I said this before. I'll just be Mr. Reoccurring message guy. But it seems like everybody's got their fucking hand out now that marijuana is legalized. Everybody that wants their cut, even though they don't deserve no cut. The fucking cops want a cut. Why do you need a cut? We don't need you anymore. Everybody wants a cut. Politicians want cut. You got these transporters wanting a cut. The tax man wants a cut. We want to pay for roads and bridges and schools and stuff. Yeah, I like the idea. But in some of the proposals I've seen around the country, and even in medical marijuana programs, like in Michigan, what they're proposing is basically leaning on the motherfucking marijuana guy harder than the guy that's actually using the road. Like the guy shipping Dow Chemical shit up and down I-75 all day. Oh, they got trains to do that. Yeah, well, don't tell me they don't ship that shit on trucks, too. Or all these gas trucks and these nitrogen trucks and all these other natural gas trucks driving around. They use the road. All the trucks. What about them? If you trace back all these trucks to the shit that's inside of them, man, I guarantee you none of them people pay taxes in Michigan, man. I promise you that. We've had Rick Snyder around here for almost 8 years. Nobody been paying no fucking taxes. I know, everybody's got their hand out. You got your people people that are normally doing things act like you got more money because you do the weed business. So you have more money than somebody that don't. All right. So people that are opposed to this shit are saying that the law was written by multi-million-dollar marijuana industry people and that voters were misled about many of the aspects of it. Bullshit. The law was the ballot initiative was written by activists, and if you read it, it sounds really reasonable. Like that, it's up to the fucking legislator to come up with a plan for the regulated industry. That's pretty reasonable. Other than that, you can grow 12 plants at home, and they didn't really say anything about marijuana, how it's going to be distributed, except for that local municipalities can regulate however they want or whatever. So, I mean, that's just one thing that happened, the bump along the road that they're starting to feel the fucking pressure coming back from the activists that actually wrote this shit. Because they're like, no, fucking come on, man. So, eyeing a June 30th deadline to get the bill to Governor Charlie Baker's desk, the Massachusetts Senate on Friday released a proposal that attempts to come closer to the recreational marijuana law voters approved in November. Through a ballot question, voters broadly, we already know. But the state lawmakers who mostly opposed the ballot question repeatedly said they planned to make changes if it passed. And can you even fucking do that? I don't understand how you can even do that. I mean, it narrowly passed. It narrowly passed. So they could argue that it's a mandate. But whatever. I digress. The Senate proposal keeps in place voter referendums rather than handing over control over pot bans to governing entities of cities and towns, as the House version does. They scrapped the plans to vote on their proposal Thursday after marijuana legalization advocates said the bill, as written, actually could lead to a 56 or 80% tax. And yeah, it makes sense, man. Like I said, everybody trying to get in on their, get their hand in there on the pie. With a bill of this magnitude and an issue of this important, it deserves 100% focus and all of our energy so we can get this right. Cusack, Democrat from Braintree, told the State House News Service independent wire covering Beacon Hill. Quote, we are trying to do a good bill, but also being mindful that we can't let the perfect be the enemy on the good with the 4 months we've had, he said on Thursday evening before the Senate rolled out its proposal. House lawmakers plan to vote on a revised bill next week down the hall. A vote on the Senate bill could come next week. Comparing the two proposals, the House and Senate appear to be in agreement on several areas. Both preserve the possession of home-growing provisions that voters approved, including up to 12 plants per household. Thank you. Moving oversight of medical marijuana out from under the state's Department of Public Health to Cannabis Control Commission, voters approved marijuana for medical use in 2012. Medical marijuana would stay untaxed under both House and Senate proposals. They're close in governance structure. Both support expanding the Cannabis Control Commission to 5 members from 3 members. The Senate gives more control to the Commission on advertising, packaging, and labeling standards and keeps the Commission under the state Treasurer's office. And also, both the House and Senate include the creation of a commission to study and report on the effects of driving under the influence of marijuana. Just give me a break on that. So there you have it. I made a point to somebody I was talking to earlier, like, if Massachusetts was the only state that legalized marijuana in 2016, in November, then this would be a story. This would be a fucking big deal. People all over the country would be fucking following this shit inch by inch. But, you know what I mean? It ain't, son. And in fact, it's overshadowed by some of the medical marijuana stories coming out of different places like Florida and whatnot. And I don't want to sound like I even really care, but to me, I think what's going on in Massachusetts is a big deal. You have the legislator carte blanche acting like they can just fucking change what voters voted for. And also, while you're at it, all this is really doing is delay, delay, delay. And it's what you've seen in Maine, and it's what you're seeing here. I don't know. I haven't really got much else to say about this, but oh yeah, here's an article about the home grow limits. Let me click on that just in case everybody's been looking at it since I've been sitting here bullshitting. So yeah. Marijuana grow operations emerging as a flashpoint in the legislative debate over what to change about the state's new legalizing recreational marijuana. The law currently allows home growers to grow up to 6 marijuana plants per person or 12 per resident. Senator Jason Lewis, Democrat from Winchester, has filed a bill to lower that to 6 plants per resident. Remember, he was who I was talking about earlier. So whatever, man. Why would this guy do this? Obviously, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, man. I looked this guy up on Open Secrets. You can't really directly try. There's some ties to some stuff that looks like it might be some pharmaceutical shit. But whatever. You know, it's nothing. It's a big deal only because, like I said, the legislator is trying to overturn the will of the voters in a ballot initiative. So that should be shocking and disturbing to all. All right, I just seen this. Yeah, that's why we're talking about it now, guys. Because it's happening to the kids. It's happening to everybody. I mean, you keep hearing about it a little bit more and more. It's breaking through. Yes, there is an opioid epidemic going on right now. Notice I didn't include heroin with that or the, real opiates. It's just an opioid, man. The fake shit is killing people because pharmaceutical industry has been allowed to get away with just dumping truckloads of pills everywhere, man. So that's a big story. Okay, Iowa. Your big day is here. And again, if Iowa was the only state to have a medical marijuana law, we'd be looking at this. But really, this story, it just makes me mad and it makes me sad. So Iowa passed emergency rules Tuesday to expand the list of medical conditions that allow a patient to use medical marijuana. Its first phase of implementing the new medical marijuana law signed last month. Iowans diagnosed with cancer, Parkinson's disease, AIDS, and other severe or terminal illnesses can start applying for a registration card June 19th. When cards are issued in August, those patients still won't be able to legally obtain medical marijuana in the state. Randy Mayer is coordinating the Department of Public Health's Office of Medical Cannabidiol. He said the state is working on a second phase of rules to address manufacturing and dispensing cannabis oil. But until those rules are written and there are requests for proposals put out, there really is no mechanism in place for people to obtain cannabidiol in the state, Mayer said. Dispensaries be required to start up by December 2018. How many of these kids are going to be dead by then, man? This is only, mind you, for CBD medication for kids that have seizures, and like they said, they jumped it up to cancer, Parkinson's, and AIDS, and severe and terminal illnesses. Whew, that sure isn't very compassionate, man. Mayor said the new applications will require certification from a primary care provider and a $100 fee. Ooh, charging fucking sick people? I mean, these people are sick, not just, oops, I stubbed my toe, or oops, I broke my neck, is what I did. And it sucks. I broke my neck, and I've been constantly back and forth from, car wrecks here and other things that fuck my neck up there. But whatever, man. Pain is pain. Suffering is suffering. And why would you make your patients pay? So you go to your primary care provider, and they're not even willing to give you this medical marijuana thing. So you have to go to this other doctor, and you end up having to pay more than this $100 fee. Because you have to pay for seeing a doctor that's not your primary care doctor more than one time. And it takes time and all this other shit. So after all that, there's still 6,000 Iowans expected to participate in the program. Good luck, guys. Like I said, with any program that doesn't involve smoking cannabis, probably won't work too good. Definitely won't see any profits. So in Pennsylvania, everything seems to be on time. So in Harrisburg, the State Department of Health says it expects to issue permits for marijuana growers and processors and dispensaries by the end of this month. The deadline to submit applications for medical marijuana medical marijuana growers, processors, and dispensaries was in March. Spokesman April Hutchinson says the Department of Health expect to award permits to the successful applicants by the end of the month. However, it will still be a while before medical marijuana is available. Once permits are issued, the applicants will have 6 months to become operational. So they'll have 6 months to begin to set up their systems and processes, and they'll have an inspection before they're deemed operational, said Hutchinson. There are a lot of other things that have to happen, including the certification of physicians and patients who will participate in Pennsylvania's medical marijuana program, which should be ready to serve those patients in the early part of 2018. Again, to be honest, I think they're full of shit right here. I just heard something that sounded more like middle 2018, maybe later 2018 if you're lucky. But they're moving in the right direction, and I don't know. We'll see. Meanwhile, also in Pennsylvania Attorney General is joining the other states to investigate the opioid makers. The state's Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, announced today that he is joining with other Attorney General in the U.S. to launch a major investigation in the marketing and sale of opioid drugs by their manufacturers. The thrust of investigation, according to Shapiro's office, is to see what role the opioid manufacturers may have played in creating or prolonging the ever-increasing epidemic. Well, I'll tell you this, is there's already a plethora of proof and evidence and court cases and testimony and grand jury decisions and verdicts, FBI investigations, DEA should be investigations. I didn't hear about them fucking really giving a fuck. But basically you have about 5 pharmaceutical companies that I know of that have a dossier with at least 2 or 3 federal agencies and local agencies and state agencies for the crime of their pills being found at fucking drug overdose death scenes on a massive scale. We're talking about on a just undeniable link scale, like a complete correlation that would fucking make anybody a believer kind of scale, dud. We're talking about some of the most ridiculous, obvious evidence that's in your face. So I don't think they're going to have any problem putting this case together, guys. Quote, the people peddling the drugs ripping apart our towns aren't only on our street corners. 3 out of 4 heroin users started by abusing prescription opioids. Not enough of that is being said. That's a fact, guys. So all this gateway theory about marijuana, fuck off. The gateway theory on marijuana loses itself within the confines of its own definition. You're saying that someone tried marijuana and it wasn't what they were really looking for. That wasn't really opening a gateway. It was just something that they stumbled across along the way. But anyway, when you're talking about a gateway to heroin, which does kill a lot of users, 75% said they started by using pills. You fucking idiots with your gateway theory. I read this shit all the time, and I don't say, oh, that's the gateway. Well, I probably do, but you probably hear me say it, but the average person probably don't hear that shit. So they say their ongoing investigation is going straight into the boardrooms of pharmaceutical companies. Probably the bedrooms too, man. They probably do all kinds of shady shit there. We will follow the evidence to hold every person and every company responsible for this tragedy accountable on behalf of Pennsylvania, Shapiro said. Bipartisan coalition of attorney general will evaluate whether any of the opioid manufacturers illegally marketed and sold opioids for company gain. Now, are these guys just looking for a big payday or something? I hope not, because that's just an open invitation for the people that are already in court cases. Like, oh shit, now the attorney generals are coming down on us? Fuck, man, you better send out some bribery money. And then you have a crisis on your hands where even the fucking attorney generals are bought out. Do they have that much money? You got to wonder, where does the cost of doing business start to become too expensive for these manufacturers of these pills? I don't know, man. It seems like they've hit the zero sum a long time ago. Like, how are you still making profit? Well, if you look at the lawsuits that have already happened, you'll see real quick. They'll settle a lawsuit for $1 million here, or $10,000 there, or $100 million there, or $50 million there, or even, dare I say it, like $150 million. Those are drops in the buckets. And if you wanted a death by 1,000 cuts, you're really going to have to do 1,000 of those or more, because these are multi-billion-dollar companies. And like I said, they're all run by just a few families, so it's not hard to point your finger. Nationwide, opioid overdoses killed more people than guns and car accidents in the 25 to 44 age group. Pennsylvania had 4,642 fatal death overdoses in 2016, a 37% increase over 2015. Lancaster County had 117 fatal overdoses in 2016. Quote, I've seen the pain caused by this crisis and heard from families that have been torn apart. To everyone touched by this epidemic who has felt the wave of overdose deaths and dealt with the pain of addiction in your family and in your town, we're fighting back for you. Well, I sure hope so, man, because I am personally getting sick of seeing my friends dropping like flies, dude. Earlier this year, the state of Mississippi sued pharmaceutical companies it thought were illegally marketing and selling opioids. Last month, Ohio became the second state to sue opioid manufacturers, naming Purdue Pharma, Endo Health Systems, Teva Pharmaceutical Industries and subsidiary Cephalon, Johnson & Johnson and subsidiary Janssen Pharmaceuticals, and Allergan. Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine alleges these 5 companies, quote, helped unleash a healthcare crisis that has had far-reaching financial, social, and deadly consequences in the state of Ohio. He claimed companies engaged in a sustained marketing campaign to downplay the addiction risks of prescription opioid drugs they sell and to exaggerate the benefits of their use for chronic pain. Thank you, and of course, these drug manufacturers, they got their trolls out there too. This right here looks like a total troll. I mean, come on, dude. Suicide by stupidity? Please. A lot of these deaths start out with people that have no idea what fucking drugs are. You know, and now they got so many different names for painkillers that they don't even know that it's the ones that have the opioids in them sometimes. That's a fact. They're literally looping people in. And if you get in a bad enough injury situation, aka a tooth pulled or a car wreck or some shit, that's the first thing they fucking offer you, man. So whatever, dude. And the 3 out of 4 stat is a fact. What are you? You must be one of these people that think the gateway theory for marijuana is a thing. Former airborne infantry at U.S. Army. I don't want to dox you out, dude, but yeah, you don't really look that much like you. You're very partisan, and that I don't know what the fuck that is, but I don't know. You don't really show much to the public. You sound like a total fucking troll. Anyway, then the thumbs up probably gave it to himself, so fuck off. You know that we have a slow work week when I'm fucking sitting here reading the comment sections with y'all. But have at it, right? So we're looking at, we always do this, we got a tale of 2 cities again. This time it's a tale of 2 states. Well, kind of cities, I don't know. We got Denver. Remember, I don't know, I didn't even do a story about it because I thought it was such a non-story. It started kind of like a tepid situation, like, oh, Denver is going to write this new law and they're going to pass it where you can smoke weed out on the town, whatever that meant, or you can smoke weed publicly, like public smoke, some kind of public smoking. And what I envisioned was some kind of coffee shop style shit or something, but whatever. But what you ended up with was, okay, so it was one of those things again where they're like, oh, hey, we're going to put this thing on the ballot and we're going to let the voters vote for it. And the voters approved it. They voted for it. It's called Initiative 300. And it was voted by 53% of the 168,995 people that voted for it. And what it did is it gave power to the legislator or the city government or whatever to basically write the rules for it. And they wrote some serious bullshit rules. It had a list of proposed rules, but designated consumption areas couldn't be within 1,000 feet of a child care business, drug and alcohol facility, or city-owned recreational areas and pools. Why, and what the fuck? This is like the new form of reefer madness. Remember, I said the theme of this show was the overabundance of caution on the rollouts of marijuana legalization. Well, this is just reefer madness here. This isn't even the overabundance of caution here. This is just like straight up reefer fucking madness. What are you talking about? People that smoke weed are basically the most trustworthy and got their shit together. They have to have their shit together. Ain't like you want to be identified. Hey, look at that guy. He's fucking stoned. He's over there acting like Beavis and Cheech and Chong and Butthead. Give me a fucking break with these zoning laws. These zoning laws would force social consumption businesses to the edge of the city in mostly industrial areas, opponents of the rules argued. There's already ordinances existing that keep such potential businesses 1,000 feet away from schools. Now that's reasonable. But I would also apply that to fucking bars, especially liquor stores. Hell, beer stores. Fuck it. I mean, if you're talking about people getting buzzed, applications are now available. You know, the problem with that is, guys, is nobody wants to do it now. Like 99% of businesses who are interested say, fuck this. It's too much bullshit. And they're like, entrepreneurs will not spend thousands of dollars on clean air systems, wild patios, and security measures, among other potential expenses, when the potential for profit is questionable. For what? To sell a cup of coffee? Said one investor. This quote here is pretty cool. We're still fighting to overcome the stigma that is rooted in a history of prohibition, and now appears the city is trying to keep consumers hidden and as far away from the mainstream as possible. Okay, yeah, I'm good on that one too. So Denver, little right wingy sounding, like they want to. If you want to smoke weed in public, it's basically going to be like in this little bubble they put around you. They should just do that. Why not? Fucking, it's so stupid. Meanwhile, in California, they're going to let you get deliveries. The takeaway I had here was that it sounds like, and I don't know if it was just this Press Democrat newspaper, their angle, or truly what the new language is that they're rolling out here. But it sounds kind of like they're really embracing the grassroots of it and the organic side of it. And like, let me just read you this part here. Legislation outlines baseline rules for marijuana businesses and was crafted to promote a new artisanal industry in a state that has embraced craft beer and small wineries. It would require state regulators to come up with rules for marijuana producers to call their goods organic, an important designation for California consumers that cannot be used on pot under federal laws, because we quit using fucking pot. The state would also create standards for official marijuana varietals and growing regions, known as appellations, so craft producers can distinguish their products based on the unique strain and growing conditions like winemakers do. With temporary licenses from state, businesses would allow to sell cannabis and provide samples at county fairs, regional agriculture associations, and cannabis festivals. So it sounds like they're just letting the grassroots have at it, you know. But in reality, you know, what's really going to happen in California is all the really, really big money interest people are going to figure out a way to do big things there. Because let's face it, California has a potential of being a $7 to $10 billion industry. I've heard that the wine industry gets about $6.5 billion a year just from tourism. Now, if you got cannabis tourism coming to California, I think they could make more than wine. I think. So here's some more bad news on slow rollouts. I had somehow, this was off my radar, that Louisiana even was one of the 28 states. I think there's 30 now. What the fuck? It says June 15, 2017. Louisiana is among 28 states and the D.C. with programs in place or in development to cultivate and sell marijuana for medical use. But the way they're doing it is like super, super weird. I have not seen a rollout this fucked up yet. Louisiana State University announced plans to partner with GB Sciences for its state's medical marijuana manufacturing program. LSU's Ag Center will contact with the Las Vegas-based company pending approval of the school's board of supervisors to grow weed and produce a medical-grade marijuana-based product available for prescription by 2018. So we're not talking about smoking. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about medical marijuana-based product made by only one company. This is completely weird, unconstitutional approach to doing business in America, in my opinion. That's why I don't like to abrogate marijuana, because it leaves business kind of doing wild, wild west shit. I kind of, as a business person, would want to be part of the tax system because it benefits business more than it hurts you. Everybody fucking knows that's successful in business. So the program comes 2 years after the passage of statewide legislation to begin planting, cultivating, dispensing, and prescribing medical marijuana in Louisiana, a long, strange trip that began in the 1970s with the passage of statewide medical marijuana law, but was effectively useless over the last 4 decades until now. Well, that sucked. I bet you had a lot of people that use that as a defense, though, and it probably worked for them, so fuck you. The Ag Center says no tax dollars will be used for the program, which could cost up to $15 million. What is that, a threat? It's just a garbage program. We've seen it happen in, I believe it was, I want to say Indiana. They had a medical marijuana program, no smoking, medical products only. The company, there's 2 or 3 companies doing it, and they were losing millions of dollars. So whatever, dude. Do the same thing. We don't care. The company likely will build a facility to grow the plant at a secure, undisclosed location as per state law. LSU Vice President of Agriculture Bill Richardson previously announced the crop could be ready by 2018. You better hurry up, buddy. Though the state won't see profits for another several years. Yeah, good luck, man. Program's garbage, rollout slow, and just sad. And you know what? In the meanwhile, you guys are suffering just like everybody else because people are dying every day. Well, in New Orleans case, now when I say that, I'm talking about in Louisiana in general, just like every other state, every day someone's dying from opioids. In your state, not quite every day, but pretty close. And they do these tricky things with numbers in this article, but what you got to do is you got to add 90 from the opiates. No, 211. Well, 166 from opiates, and then the rest is the opioids. And this is just in New Orleans, where last year more people died from opiates and opioids. Just drug-related overdoses was over 200. So And it was more than people had gotten murdered in the city. It's one of the murder capitals. It always is. You always hear them talk about that shit. But this was likely the first time drug-related deaths have surpassed homicides in the history of New Orleans. And I'm just saying these things to get some impact out of it, you know, like I'm just using words to try to to shock people, like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But the sad part is this is not some isolated shit. This is happening all over the country, y'all. And to the point where it isn't really shocking anymore. It's pretty much run of the mill. Everybody knows somebody that has died from opioids. Everybody that knows an addict should have some of this in their house by now. And if you don't, you should find out about it. It's sad. It's a really sad time to live right now for a lot of fucking reasons. But when I think about it, this opioid epidemic is the fucking worst thing going on that I can think of, man. Alright. I'm pretty much done. And we have one thing, little piece of business to take care of. And that is the good people that smoke weed. And this time, it's not just one person, it's all of you. If you smoke weed, you're good. You have a study that proves that now. And at first I thought this was some kind of one of those gag articles, just parodied out, you know, clickbait. It is kind of clickbaity, but it is Fox 31 Denver, right? This is a real place. Yeah, this is a real newspaper. They do look very clickbaity, though. Colorado doctors on front line of fight against the opioid epidemic. See, this is everywhere, guys. This is everywhere. Drug abuse is now the #1 killer of adults over the age of 50. But meanwhile, like I said, we have a study now that says that we are the good people. And let's check it out. A study that claims to be the first of its kind found cannabis consumers are, quote, among the most well-adjusted and successful of American adults. The study by BDS Analytic compared people in 3 categories: consumers, people who consume cannabis products in the past; acceptors, people who do not consume cannabis but might consider it; and rejectors, people who do not consume cannabis and would not consider it. They're a dying breed. The researchers found consumers in Colorado were more likely to have full-time jobs, more likely to say they are more satisfied with their lives now than they were a year ago, and more likely to say they are very social, and more likely to say they enjoy outdoor recreation more than acceptors and rejectors. According to the study, full-time employment is enjoyed by 64% of Colorado consumers compared to 51% of acceptors and 54% of rejectors. Nearly 5 in 10 Colorado consumers agree they are more satisfied with life today than they were a year ago, compared to about 4 in 10 among acceptors and rejectors. Among Colorado consumers, 36% agree they are very social people compared to 21% of acceptors and 28% of rejectors. Consumers in Colorado say they enjoy outdoor recreation at a higher rate, 50% for consumers compared to 36% for rejectors. Quote, cannabis consumers are far removed from the characters historically used to describe them, said Lisa Gilbert, head of the Consumer Research Division at BDS Analytics. Quote, in fact, positive lifestyle indicators like volunteering, socializing, satisfaction with life, and enjoyment of exercise in the outdoors are the highest among cannabis consumers, at least in Colorado and California. And I can also report in Clio, Michigan, which, like I said earlier, is where the Cannabis Cup will be next week. I will definitely be there. I'll probably, I don't know, do some kind of thing like I did at the Hash Bash. I hope to get an interview with somebody from MILegalize like I did last year. And other than that, that pretty much wraps it up. We are the good people that smoke marijuana, as you just heard. There's a study now that backs that shit up. And I can tell you that there's more to it than that. We're people, for the most part, you'll find that people that consume cannabis are critical thinkers, which is why we have always known, everybody that smokes cannabis on a daily basis, the chronics out there, we have always known that prohibition was bullshit, and especially prohibition of cannabis. Come on. There's no way you could justify it. And the theme that we're seeing emerge these days is medical marijuana may be our only way out of this opioid epidemic. Just saying. That's been a theme. That's a pretty good theme. I am remiss to say that one of my friends, and I didn't even know that he was still using, because I was under the understanding that he had quit using heroin years ago. And, I didn't realize that he may have relapsed and then just been back on it for years too, but I was just told that he has quit, and he's been clean for a year from opiates and opioids. And that is in a big part thanks to medical marijuana in Michigan. So I'm just going to say that without mentioning any names, because I don't know if I have permission to do that or not at this time. But who knows, maybe in the future I'll do an interview with them. And in the wake of just dozens of people that I know who have died from opioids and opiates in the last 5 years, since I haven't even been around in Detroit, but they've literally been dropping like flies. And it's sad. Other things going on, keep your eyes out for the MILegalize video that I will put out sometime the next week. Or, well, not this week, but after the Cannabis Cup. And that'll be it. Thanks for tuning in, and shit, you might as well subscribe if you haven't. I'm losing subscribers every time I upload one of these videos, and I have no idea why.